Lisa Nandy, the cultural secretary, the cultural minister, has talked about in the light of the BBC being exposed as being less significant than social media yesterday. She's talked about mutualizing the BBC and the license fee so that ordinary people will have more say in what the BBC does. I don't think that's going to change the amount of money that we pay for the license fee. It's simply going to mean that rather like being a member of the co op, we would get an opportunity to attend some sort of annual meeting. And I think this lip service to democracy is probably as absurd as the routine raising of the license fee anyway. If we want to be if we want to be involved in the governance of the BBC, then we need to find a better way to do so. Sitting in a room and approving or disapproving of proposals that are put to an audience is not a way of participating directly in the national broadcaster. I think we need to cut back heavily on reality TV, and we need to ensure that there is a better supply of up-to-date news, and that a distinction is made between news and opinion. So perhaps more opinion and and a good wholesome diet of news rather than the endless repeats of the same lines. It's the repetition which is so dull, and the repetition is found not only on the broadcast um, television programs, but also on the wireless, on the radio, which is tiresomely repetitive. If you've listened recently to Radio 4, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's increasingly difficult to access Radio 4. So if you access it on a twiddly radio knob thing, I think you can get it. I haven't done that for so many years, it's absurd. I access it on the computer, and I find it's almost impossible to switch Radio 4 on and leave it on. It simply wants to play a particular program and then promote the next program. Whereas what I actually wanted to do is to play endlessly. And if it plays endlessly, I find the lie is suddenly very evident that a lot of it is repetition or telling me what's coming on next, which is tiresome. And we need, you know, the BBC has led the way in developing broadcasting in Britain, and other broadcasters are very much in the shadow of the BBC. So if we destroy the BBC, we destroy broadcast media, not only on television, not only on the wireless, not only on the radio, but also on social media. Social media looks to the BBC for its inspiration. And Lisa Nandy says that she is a supporter of the BBC, a supporter of the licence fee, and a supporter of the concept of public service broadcasting. But she then goes on and says, and that means people have to have more at stake in their own public service broadcaster. Mutualization would in effect mean that payers of the licence fee would have a more direct stake in the BBC. And in a blog post that she made in 2020, she said the BBC should move to a model of being owned and directed by licence fee holders, who can help decide the trade-offs that the BBC must make to secure its future. As I say, it all sounds very grand, but I think in practice it's not going to mean a great deal, and may well perpetuate a nonsense situation with the illusion of accountability without it actually being genuine. We've got to find a better way. And I'm not convinced that the pay-per-view is the way forward, and I'm certainly not convinced this mutuality thing is a way forward. I don't think. I don't see a lot of benefit in recasting the BBC in terms of the co-op. The BBC Director General Tim Davie and the Chair Samir Shah are going to be in Parliament today, I think, to be quizzed about the Hugh Edwards scandal. Is it today or is it tomorrow? Anyway, they will also almost certainly also be drawn on the question of BBC funding in the context of the decline in the licence fee payment and the resistance of people to pay the licence fee. The assumption that every house in the country has a television is now wrong. The assumption that every person in the country who has a television pays the licence fee is now wrong. And the assumption that if you have a television, you're watching the BBC, that is also wrong. So a lot of assumptions that lie behind the licence fee are erroneous. And I think the idea that the licence fee commands, well, it no longer does command a criminal prosecution. But all of that needs to be challenged. All of that needs to be questioned, whether or not this is the right way to do it. In some countries, the licence fee for the national broadcaster is simply part of the electricity fee that you pay whether you watch the programmes or not. And maybe that sort of taxation is the way forward. That would at least silence the debate, wouldn't it?